This is the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Bruschi.
Welcome back to our dramatic reading of the love letters, texts really, from Chad Daybell to Lori Vallow. We're on segment 3 and the beginning of chapter 2. James sadly walked into his car after watching Elana disappear down the hallway. But he couldn't deny their connection and his absolute attraction to her. She still seemed way out of his league, but he nervously sent her a text before driving to his hotel. A minute passed, then 2, without a response. Kicked himself, thinking he ever had a chance with her. Then his phone buzzed. Elana had texted back. His heart soared. And over the next few hours, they texted back and forth dozens of times. He knew she was staying at a home in Torksville, and he desperately wanted to drive there and whisk her back to the hotel for a night of reconnection and romance. He twice got redressed during the night to go see her, but the spirit gently said, "Have patience. Everything will work out as it's supposed to." They finally stopped texting around 4 a.m., and when he closed his eyes to sleep, he was taken again to their previous life together. The intense passion of their lovemaking was a sight to behold. He knew it would be difficult, but he could be patient if it meant he could experience that type of love just once in his life. As he lay in the hotel bed, it was as if her spirit had joined him. They wrapped around each other and kissed gently, then intensely. And the emotions they shared were not of this world. James woke up in the hotel room feeling happier than he had in his entire life. It felt like he and Elana had fit together perfectly in every way. He rolled over to kiss her, but then reality struck. She was actually more than 20 miles away in Torksville with her Arizona friends. He texted her, and she quickly responded. He deeply regretted not going to be with her the night before. It was as if he already knew the taste of her lips, and his hands knew every curve of her body. He knows his dreams were somehow real, and that they were actually traveling to each other in a higher dimension. He hungered for her in ways he didn't think were possible. The voice was right. Elana was going to change his life forever. He packed his suitcase and began driving north on the freeway. As each mile passed, James could feel Elena's spirit beckoning for him to join her. As he approached the Torksville exit, it took every ounce of willpower to keep driving on the freeway. His attraction to her was beyond magnetic. He felt their souls were two halves of an eternal union. Tears filled his eyes. As he passed the freeway exit, he desperately yearned to embrace her and tell her he desperately loved her, as crazy as that sounded. But he knew he would be seeing her 3 weeks later at a conference in Arizona. It seemed like an eternity away, but he sensed it would be a very significant weekend for them. He already was crazy about her, and his feelings, it says his, of admiration and affection for her would only grow more intense and wonderful. During his long drive home, James was able to text back and forth with Elana, and it was clear they were extremely compatible and shared the same interests. It felt like talking to a long-distance best friend. When he arrived home, he searched the internet for anything about her, but there was nothing. She was a fascinating mystery that he wanted to spend the rest of eternity with. At the end of his drive, she suggested that they talk on the phone the next day. He was thrilled at the thought of hearing her voice again. He was falling more madly in love by the minute. When James heard her voice that Monday morning, the euphoria he had felt Saturday came rushing back strongly. They talked for 2 hours, but it seemed to be only minutes. He was obsessed with her and couldn't get enough. During the first phone conversation with Elana, James realized she already had a strong understanding of many of the truths he had been taught regarding how the universe really worked. The lounge fire and obsession with each other had no real explanation unless they truly had a spiritual connection before this life. I think lounge fire was actually supposed to be the second occurrence of loin fire. But we're reading it verbatim. The lounge fire. He was able to clarify many if the promptings and impressions she had felt in recent years. She knew she had lived on Earth before, and James was able to clarify when. They'd been married before on this Earth, and other times on a previous Earth. Their love truly spanned the universe and eons of time. They knew the Lord had brought them together again for a crucial mission that only they could accomplish as a united couple. During the next week, they spoke every day for at least an hour, but often longer. They hungered to know everything about each other. This was a new experience for James to open up and share the true feelings of his heart, but he knew he could trust her completely. The bond between them was intense, and only the vast distance between them kept their passion for each other from roaring into a blazing inferno. She quickly became his best friend, or better said, 2 best friends had reunited, and their prior love was now ignited again in a wonderful, heavenly way. As November began, James and Elana had talked on the phone every day since last seeing each other. He was extremely impressed with her intelligence, personality, and subtle humor that made him laugh more than he had in his lifetime. She was a complete delight to talk to, and the height of his day was when he could hear her magical voice. It was so familiar to him that it actually healed and soothed his heart and soul. They would both attend the same event in mid-November, and it seemed like that day would never arrive. Each day they opened their hearts to each other a little more. James knew he could trust her with the mysteries of the universe that had been revealed to him. He knew they had been married before, and they had been close friends with the Savior when he lived in Jerusalem. James had served in an important position in the Lord's church, and Elana had been his beloved spouse and best friend. That relationship was now meant to continue in this lifetime. How does it continue? What was their connection in Jerusalem? Well, you'll have to press subscribe and keep it here to find out as we continue reading the dramatic love text from Chad Daybell to Lori Vallow. There is much more to come, believe it or not, as we go through this shitstorm of text. My name's Tony Bruschi. Press subscribe so you don't miss it. There's more on the way. Stay with us.